Okay, so people, we are doing a new series called This Week in Web Series, where we talk to web series creators about the web series space. And today on the show, we've got Chris Greenaway from Venuspa. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks, Travis. Thanks for having me on. It's been an interesting few months, but things are going pretty good.
Cool, cool. There's lots been going on with, I know, with Venuspa.
Yes, we have finished shooting season 3 for the most part. We have a few things left to do, like a couple of incidental shots and whatnot, and then it's time to sit down and edit. And hopefully by the end of September, season 3 will be unleashed and we'll be back on the ground running.
Okay, so you shoot the whole season and then you release them bit by bit?
Yes.
Ah,
Basically, I shoot it all in 3 days, usually, like some between 3 and 4 days. And what we'll do is in the first season, I had written each episode specifically, so I knew exactly when each episode began and ended. Season 2, we tried things a little differently. We put everything in one script rather than having to print like 12 of them.
okay.
And basically chopping it up where I wanted to chop it up because I wanted to have more episodes. So I shrank down the episodes a bit more, so I ended up with 20 episodes and a few other added videos that were extras. Like we made a Christmas special. We made, the Solid Gold parody with
Right.
YouTube videos. And we also did the Venus Spa workout parody video, which was also, it was kind of a in-betweener in terms of whether it was a real episode or not. But we did a lot of that, and then we just chopped them up the way we saw fit in the editing room later. This season, we're doing a little bit more like what we did in the second season, but the feel of the show is closer to the first season.
Now, how many episodes do you do per season?
Season 1 was, depending on whether you call the mini episode, Alley versus Sinistar, a real episode, we did 13. Now, if you don't count that one, we did 12. We did 8 regular episodes with the Alley versus Sinistar video, and then we did what we called the Venus 4x4, which was 4 episodes in 4 consecutive days, starting with our usual date, which was on Thursday nights,
Right.
and then we had another video throughout every day for the remainder of the weekend.
Wow.
It was loosely based on Lonely Girl 15's old 12 episodes in 12 hours.
Oh, they did that. That's
Yeah, they did that every year for years. Even the TSIY, The Show Is Yours, which were fan videos, they also did 12 and 12s.
so
And
every hour they release an episode?
yes,
Wow, that's neat.
and fans literally were at the edge of their seat from start to finish in a lot of cases, and commenting as it happened. So it was essentially like dropping an episode live.
Right. Yeah, that's neat. I never heard of that before.
Yeah, it was again, but Lonely Girl 15 was the first of its kind, and unfortunately for the web space, really almost the last of its kind, really. But they were a daily show, from what I remember. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and then the 12 and 12 at the end of the season would be, would be the big finale. Usually they would take the whole week off and then drop the 12 and 12, but they would normally keep that schedule, and they kept it up for years. I think there was like 300 or 400 LG15 episodes.
Holy crow.
Oh yeah, it was insane. I'm amazed that they were able to shoot as much as they were able to shoot with the budgets that they were going on. I mean, yeah, it was. I don't know if it could work today. I've thought of ideas on how it could work today with different content, but you really, whether you like them or not, you got to admire the ability to do that. It's just off the charts to be able to do that and keep it going the way they did.
Right. Yeah, well, I guess it depends on, I guess they were easier to shoot, right? Because she was talking just into the webcam a lot of times.
As time went by, they had to move beyond the bedroom, and they actually reached a point where there was a lot of action in it after a while, like kidnappings and having to save not Jessica Rose, the first girl, but after her every season there was a new trait positive girl that this group of people had to go save.
Okay.
And a lot of episodes it was just them talking to a webcam. A lot of times just spinning yarns, like making weird references to anything from philosophy to Bible to whatever. And there was an ARG element in there after a while where people had to decipher things.
Like an alternative reality game type?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
They mixed that in a lot, especially in the middle seasons of the show. And they did it all the way to the end, but never quite the way they did in the first year or two. But over time, they did lots of different things like that. And I'm, again, trying to wrap my head around how did they pull this off without people dying of exhaustion.
Right. Yeah. Well, I know I get inspired by ideas like that, and what you've done too with like Christmas stuff and the solid gold and just stuff you can give to the fans because my show takes so long to make because it's all green screen. I'm building all the backgrounds in that. Right. I think I just have to, just try to be more creative. Like I do a lot of behind the scenes type videos. If I'm building a puppet or if I'm doing something interesting, I'll release it. But yeah, I think we can look back and with Lonely Girl, they're so creative and how can we bring that into our web series? Can we use that somehow?
I believe we can. Like one of the things I did in season 2 of Venus Spa, I know you noticed this at least once, and that was the hidden shout-outs.
Yeah, that was awesome.
We had, if there was a movie theater cutaway, we'd have fans' names in the movie, are the movie or starring in the movie in the marquee, things like that. I mean, there was a bar that we would always have to show the exterior of the bar, but the marquee would constantly change and have people's names or sometimes websites, etc. Ways to get people in it and get our fans into the show. In fact, on one occasion, we actually added Big J's Extreme Fitness to the show's lineage with them going over the list of people that were either eliminated or what their scores were during regional fitness championships, and Big J's Extreme Fitness was the team that ended up finishing second.
Ah, okay.
And that's a real channel, and they made a reaction video.
Oh, see, there you go. See,
yeah, and they grafted themselves into the Venus Spa universe just on the virtue of that.
Yeah, I love that stuff. I love when sort of cross-pollinization type stuff. Like, well, even with our with Women in Web Series, it was fun to collaborate with you and with Dan Stewart.
That was amazing.
Yeah, there's Darren Warnicourt, I believe. He composed some music for it, and then Peter Mixed Nuts is his email. He's on YouTube. He does like tons of impressions, and he did the Saturday Night Live voice.
Don Pardo.
Don Pardo, yes. He did a really good job. He's a talented guy, but
he was incredible.
Yeah, but I think that's what we have to do is even the examples like Duralius and Associates, which was on escapism.com, escapemagazine.com. I realized they put a little Good Night's Quest sign, I think, because Good Night's Quest was a web series that was on Escapist Magazine as well, and so they give them a shout out. But I think that's important to sort of share your audience.
Well, that's just it. I mean, creating a community is incredibly important, and we don't see enough of it, and I think you do see it with YouTubers, but you don't see it in the so-called series community. And that's something that, if we're going to grow, that I believe that does need to change, because the YouTubers are doing something right, and a lot of us in our community are doing something wrong.
I agree. Yeah. Well, and again, too, for Women in Web Series for me is that's my first collaboration video I've ever done.
Well, it was for us too. Like, as in an official collab video, that was our very first.
Mm-hmm.
We just did one with a girl who was a big fan of our show called Sarah Lacroix Music, and she actually got in the show. She actually got into Venus, so technically that's a collab. and we just did a Swaggerville video with my old Camp Bloody Beach series combined with her, and that turned out to be a lot of fun too. But really, what it comes down to is geography doesn't matter.
No,
it really doesn't. There's ways around that, and we've proven that, and that's extremely profound for our space that this can be done. I mean, we're not the first, we won't be the last, but it's always amazing when it happens.
Yeah, and it inspires. Your energy, I sort of can feed off that, and my energy, you can feed off of that. It's just, we're just all friends, and we're all trying to help each other, and it really makes things easier in the tough times.
It does. It really does. And, without that, I don't know where I would be. I don't know where anyone else I know would be if this stuff didn't exist. Like, if we didn't have things like the box, on your YouTube channel, where you have other friends that are either your fans or they're other channels that you're friendly with or what. I mean, without things like that, without comments, without that feedback, and without knowing that people actually care about what you're doing, I don't know if I would ever found the energy to get past Camp Bloody Beach. I mean, I don't know about you, but those things do mean something.
Oh, I love comments. I just love them. That's what gives you the energy to do the next episode.
Yeah, it does. And really, I know a lot of people out in other places and bigger centers have the idea that the web should be as passive a viewing experience as television, but I can't imagine life that goes just back to that again. I really can't. I think we do need comments and feedback, and people that are the ability to make reaction videos or response videos. Without those things, I really don't think the web space survives 3 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I find that's what makes it exciting for me, is to actually talk to the audience. And I think that's why our shows have been so successful, is that we love talking to the audience. And I also, I see it as it's crowdsourcing for your content too, because they'll tell you what they don't like, and they'll tell you what you like. They'll give you a lot of constructive criticism. Which I find invaluable. For instance, I was getting a lot of your episodes are too short earlier on, and I didn't have a choice. I was signed up to Coldcast, and I had to deliver an episode. I had a deadline for each episode, so sometimes they were a little shorter than others. But I listened to the audience, and I go, yeah, okay, well, once things slow down, I'm going to give some big meaty episodes. So far this season, I think the first episode of season 2 was like around 6.5 minutes, and this one will be close to 8 minutes long.
I think in your case, with a show that doesn't have as many episodes, the bigger the better.
Right.
Because knowing that you're not going to be back for a while, it's good to have something to watch that you can just sit down and go through. Like I'm not sure how familiar you are with the Angry Video Game Nerd.
Yeah, I've watched his stuff. He's pretty good.
James is tremendous talent, but the one thing that he's been doing with the Nerd is he used to make episodes every couple of weeks, and as his production values went up, it was insane. So now he makes new AVGN episodes once a month to once every 5 weeks, but they're longer than a sitcom. They're like 22 to 25 minutes. In his case, it works because he knows his fans are going to be there, and he's had these fans for so long that they actually look at a short episode as if it's like he's skimping on them, because he makes them every 4 to 5 weeks rather than every other week like you used to. So if you're not going to be back for a while, you got to give them something they can sit through for give them something that's a bit bigger.
Right.
But in my case, where a show is every week, keeping it short really helped. But again, it comes down to your fans. If they want a bigger episode, you gotta give it to them.
Right.
If they think your episodes are too long, gotta cut them, because they're not going to stick around if you don't.
They're the boss, aren't they?
Absolutely, and that's the bottom line when it comes to building a community. is if you don't, you have to put the fans first, not your creators community. I hate to say that, but the bottom line is the creators aren't going to be the difference between success and failure. Those guys patting you on the back is nice. Going to mixers, that's probably lots of fun. But if the fans shit on you, pardon my language,
that's okay.
Or the fans turn their back on you, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You may not be able to bounce back from that. I've seen shows do something silly and just completely lose the fan base, or sometimes they'll do something entirely different and bring in a whole new fan base. But ultimately, that community needs to be almost your family.
Yeah.
You got to be willing to spend time with them, listen to them, and build that relationship first and foremost. Everything else can come later.
Yeah, there's almost that rule that I like to follow is you want to spend 80% of your time with the top 20% of your fans.
I hear what you're saying with that. That you could make the argument that's a lot of that's in the comments.
Yeah, true.
That's probably where that percentile is going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you do get hardcore fans that comment on every video, and they're the ones I like to talk to. Even like Sarah Lacroix, is that how you pronounce that?
Yes.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's awesome. Like she comments all the time, and I love talking to her. I like watching her videos. But yeah, just I guess spend time with the hardcore fans, the people who enjoy your work.
Like I do call to arms or like general consensus when I will do is go on YouTube and send people private messages through YouTube and say I'll have lists of the diehards. Some disappear over time and you just have new ones. And what I will do is I will gather them over time and know who to get in touch with when it comes to the biggest and the most vocal. And then try the easiest way to do that is basically look at your comments, who's commenting and not being a jerk.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
And then what you do is I will send them the video, personally, through YouTube, even though it's probably in the stream, your sub-stream. But I will do it anyway as a personal touch, and then ask a general question of what they think, and they'll send me. A lot of times they will send me feedback, and we'll go from there. And again, it's a very intimate thing, and I know eventually if you get to like Lisa Nova's numbers or Shane Dawson's numbers, you're not able to do that as much. But making the effort is seldom unappreciated.
Yeah, they like when you talk to them and you comment back. And a lot of times with some of the fans, I'll go, watch their videos. I'm like, well, he or she's watching every one of my videos. I'm checking out their videos.
Absolutely.
They're supporting me. I'm going to support them.
Yeah, and I do that too. I think we've both done that at the same time a few times on the same video.
Yeah.
And but it's something that is important to do. Retweeting people. I have a completely different audience on Twitter that I have on YouTube, and I'm sure that's true for a lot of people as well. And a good thing to do is it's hard to balance both of those, but if you can, try to retweet your viewers as much as you can and try to thank people as best you can. And saying thank you when people actually go above and beyond to help you is incredibly important. Be it creator, especially between creators, that's really important.
Oh yeah.
I've been known when I need help, I'll ask other creators, what do you think? What should I do? And I will definitely thank them. And they say it's inherently thankless, but I don't agree with that. I really think that you really should be good to each other as much as you possibly can, and you return the favor whenever you can as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I think you and I are both. That's how we operate.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
what Dad does it.
What's that?
The guy, Jason Lever from Out With Dad, does the same.
Yeah.
He does it on his website first and foremost, not on YouTube, but the effect is still felt. It's when he puts a link up and gets people to click on it, be it YouTube or otherwise, you do notice it, and I always thank him when he does, and he always thanks me when I do the same for him. And so and it's really the three of us. We all definitely do it as much as we can.
Yeah, yeah. Now, do you want to talk about some topics in the news in the web series world?
Oh, sure, that would be great.
Okay. All right. So the first one is there's a lot of talk about should a web series be called a web series?
Oh man.
What do you think,
in some
Chris?
cases, you just can't polish a turd. But the bottom line is a lot of. I hate to talk about the bubble.
Talk about
but
it. But
a lot of times, they've out there. They seem to they made the word web series a dirty word, but it was happening before they started talking about trying to change the name. It just got to a point where it just seemed so pretentious anyway, and now we're at a point where I don't see how changing the name is going to help anybody. It just seems like a great big waste of time and people trying to position themselves as though they invented something.
Right, right. Well, and just to clarify, the bubble, if people don't know, is the LA bubble. So Los Angeles, I guess there's a bubble of just LA web series creators who just sort of, they act in everyone else's things and they talk just amongst their crowd and they ignore everyone outside the bubble. That's what.
Well,
sort of.
It's actually it's a little bit. You're definitely on the right track there. But it's not just folks in LA, because I have dealt with people in LA that have been good to me, and we've helped each other. But they're few and far between. It's the LA/New York web series establishment.
Right, right.
The power brokers, the media types, and a few of the creators. It's something else that isn't. It's not just. You don't have to be in LA to be in it, and you don't have to be in New York to be in it.
True.
But they're very LANY centric, and if you're not there, you don't count, or worse, you didn't happen at all.
Right, they completely ignore you.
More or less, like guys like me who can be pretty controversial when he opens his mouth,
right.
Tend to refuse to be ignored, but I wouldn't recommend people do that because it's probably not the smartest thing in the world.
Right, right. And yeah, and there's some great people in Los Angeles in the web series community as well. I'm just stating that's what people say the LA bubble is, and does it exist? I don't know. A lot of people would say yes.
I think to say yeah, and I know that we both know people that have encountered the same things. Yeah. My attitude towards it is we've reached a point now where LA may be the entertainment capital of America in traditional media, but in new media, not even close. It really is basically no better than Des Moines.
Well, here's the thing that sort of annoys me. Like, for instance, you, Chris, how many views have you got of Venus Spa in total?
We're at about combined about 2 million.
2 million, okay. And I'm at about 3.6 million. But you
Okay.
and I get like hardly any press, anywhere, because we're not sort of from LA. But yet our numbers combined are huge, and we beat almost all of the shows for views, except the big ones.
It's hard. Well, really only in LA when it comes to so-called scripted series, because that's one thing I learned when it comes to dealing with the so-called bubble is YouTubers are lower form of life than us.
Right.
They really have a serious problem, like the Annoying Orange. I've heard, like, was it Indie Inner the hate for Dane and his Annoying Orange is scary.
Right.
It really is. Tube Filter covers them. Tube Filter's covered Venus on and off over the years. Nothing. I don't worry about it because I knew the first time I got coverage from them that we got an all of 17 views at the time.
Right.
When the first ever article with Venus Spa's name on it was dropped. And so that was the moment I said, you know what, do these places really matter at all?
Right.
It's the blogs that we need to be more concerned with. I mean, you do sci-fi fantasy.
Yeah.
So as long as if you're getting ink with the sci-fi fantasy blogs, you're going to get 1,000 times more coverage and viewership than you'll ever get from new TV or tube filter.
Yeah.
Well, it really comes down to who your target audience is.
Well, I know with the we got covered in Wired, which is awesome, and that got us 13,000 views in like a few hours.
Was that early in your run?
Yeah, that was early. That was like episode 3.
Ah, okay. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's you almost have to get coverage, outside the web series world to really get high viewerships from a piece.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the thing about Tube Filter is it helps in one regard, and that is the insiders are watching or are reading them.
Yeah.
The problem is that's all who's reading them. I remember during the Streamies in 2010, 90% of the people in chat were fans of the YouTube shows that were nominated that were there, like Shay Carl's fans, Lisa Nova fans, Shane Dawson fans. Those were all the people in chat. There were no web series people. I remember thinking, well, where's all those Greenaway fans? They supposedly got 18 million views. Where are they?
Right.
Well, they weren't there. They didn't show up because either they didn't exist or I don't know. But the bottom line is that that Tube Filter and the likes of only get those kind of numbers when people with those kind of shows with massive fan bases bring their fan base to them. It's not coming from them to you. So you have to put it in perspective that way. I mean, a nice review is nice. It's always nice. You can put it on their DVDs. You can put it, on your website. If there's testimonials, any testimonial I've learned is great. I call it the Ricky Bobby rule, where you can have characters from your own show or movie talk about how awesome the show is, right, and then have them as a testimonial on your poster or your DVD or whatever.
Hey, why not?
But you can do it just about anything. I know people that have had, Burger King attendants give a testimonial on their DVDs. So, but the bottom line is, you're getting it from. It's an insider's paper, really. It's like the old wrestling kayfabe sheets, like the Wrestling Observer before it became really huge with the internet. Only maybe 100 people read it. A couple of fans, mostly wrestlers.
Right.
That's where we're at here. Mostly creators watched. Very few fans read Tube Filter. So if you get praise from your peers in the major centers, it's nice.
It feels good. Yeah.
But it's not going to really get you anywhere.
Right. Again, it goes back to the fans. They're the ones that get you there.
Well, that's the Who are your fans? As soon as you are able to ask that question, you can find an answer for it. And once you've found that answer, that's when you go get them.
Yeah. And too, with making money with a web series, or to me, at first you've got to find your fans. If you don't find your fans, forget about it. If you don't find your fan base, forget about it. Either ask the little fans you do have, what's wrong with my show, and if they can't tell you, then I don't know. Like, you have to have fans for a show. It's either something's missing, or it's the wrong idea, or it's the wrong time for that idea. I don't know, but you have to find the fans. You and I have found the fans for our shows.
Yes, we have.
Then what you do is you leverage the views. This is just my opinion, but you leverage those views with brands to put either product placements in, or they sponsor you, and that's how you make your money, plus ad revenue deals, which don't pay that much. And hopefully between those two things together, you can actually make a profit. I know for us, we're actually making a profit now, for the first time ever, but we've been at it since 2008.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on my second show since 2008, so yeah, you've been at it for a very long time, and it's great to hear that you're getting to that point where you're able to break even on it and go past that. Mm-hmm. In my case, we've been partners since December of 2009 with YouTube.
Yep.
And we've been able to pay off season 1.
Excellent.
And now season 2 is what we're trying to get money off of. Hopefully, we'll make a dent in it before season 3 starts.
Right. Now you have a sponsor as well. Now, right? Product placement.
We just got one. We got an episode. We're gonna have. It's a 1-episode thing. It's testing the waters. Hopefully, that will lead to a few more. It's basically for fans of spandex. It's
hey, who doesn't like spandex?
Yeah. But it's definitely there. But it's also a niche audience, and that with Venus Spa, the girls wear leg warmers and leotards and various spandex products a lot. So that's how I remember. First time I noticed that we had a serious spike in viewership when I went and looked, and I found a message board called Power of Women in Spandex was posting our videos.
Oh wow!
And talking about how great it was, and I said, awesome. So I went down there. I joined the site, joined it, and say, hey guys, thanks so much for posting, and it created a whole lot of goodwill. And now I post there on a regular basis whenever we have something new to drop, and we created a good chunk of fans. And from there, we started going to other spandex channels and sites and talking to them and saying, check us out. It's it's not just girls in spandex, but it's actually a show. And we developed fans from that. And one time, we did. Do you remember the video game episodes we did?
Oh yeah, yep. The Friday the 13th.
Where one of the characters attacked the game machine. I think it's the best way to put it.
Right.
That went to some vintage Atari message boards.
I remember that.
And, hey guys, thanks so much. And then it helped. It brought a whole new segment of fans that I was hoping to get, but actually were able to discover us. And whenever someone finds my show, I will go out and I will thank them for finding it and for supporting it as best I can. And it really does help. It's what I call turning one view into 1,000, because so many times that's happened. And but that all comes down to finding your fan base, and then, or if your fan base finds you, to acknowledge it.
Yeah. Like I know with all the puppets on our show, after a while I thought, hey, Muppet fans might like the show now because we've got all these puppets everywhere, and so I just
absolutely.
I went on message boards and talked to people in the Muppets community and on Twitter, and then fans of Muppets were reposting our videos on their sites or embedding them on their sites, and I always thank them, and you're always looking for what niche or what area can I break into, can we and even with the products, like I can't release the product for this next episode, but the last one was Coors Light, but this second one is more within the fantasy world, so it's a better fit, I think.
Okay.
So, and just like you use spandex for your sponsor, it's a perfect fit. You have to find those perfect fits.
That's right. When I've created Venus Spa, believe it or not, I was hoping to make it a branded show for American Apparel.
Right.
Like way back when. Now, American Apparel has never returned my calls, which is unfortunate because I've used we actually buy stuff from them actually, which would have been the perfect fit. But if we can't get them, well, we look at other places, and we have. Like our show there's a lot of beer drinking in it, so at some point we hope to get a brewing company of some kind. Sneakers. Like there's a whole. I wrote a whole list that was like 50, 60 names deep. Like sports teams are in there. Like basically, our show appeals to men over 30 that were into like Baywatch and shows like that. I mean, I know there's a lot of people who don't like the fact that we went there, and I've actually gotten a few cat calls saying from some creators who will go nameless, "Oh, anyone can do what you do," but
no, they can't.
Well, if that's true, then do it.
Right.
I'm all for that.
Right.
If you can build a better mousetrap, go out and do it. Like what Lee Iacocca said, if you can get a better car at this price, buy it.
Right.
But I remember saying, look, there's no Maxim for men over 40. Well, make one.
Exactly.
So why not?
Yeah.
So Yeah, there's lots to go with. It's hard. It's not easy, especially if you're not in the tens of millions, which would make it a lot easier. And the more views you get, the easier things become.
That's true.
No matter what you're doing, really. I mean, Fred got a movie. He wouldn't have gotten that movie. He was getting my views.
Right.
He certainly wouldn't have had John Cena playing his dad. So the bigger you get, the more doors it opens.
Yeah,
but we're both in a position. We're awful close.
Yeah, the longer you're at it, the more subscribers you get, the more friends you get, the more contacts you meet.
Right.
The more Twitter followers you have, the more ad revenue you're making, the more you may attract a brand. So
That's right.
you just have to you just got to keep at it and be passionate about your project.
That's right. And if you do switch, move on to something else, at least end your story.
Yeah.
Like, Camp Bloody Beach is essentially dead. That was my first show.
Yeah.
Where I played a serial killer. It was like a Friday the 13th meets Lonely Girl 15. It was what it was. It didn't do as well as I hoped, but we ended it anyway. Chad got his in the end. The girl, the whole thing, it ended the way a slasher movie would end.
Right.
And before I moved on to Venus, we ended Camp Bloody Beach. But really, abandoning a show midway through without some kind of finality is, I believe, if you're building a brand, suicide.
Right. Well, I am guilty of that because my last one was called Sex. And it was Star Explorer Xenolith. It was an angry drunk in space trying to find his ex-girlfriend. But we did 4 of them, and it was just taking so long to do computer animation for it. This was like back, geez, it must have been maybe 5 years ago.
Right.
It was just taking forever to do. That I just dropped it. I just didn't have, just from exhaustion. It was just so hard to do and so much rendering time. I sort of dropped it, and then I said, you know what? I'd really like to do a fantasy series. So I just didn't have the resources to finish it up.
What was the turnaround, if you don't mind me asking?
What's that?
What was the turnaround between Sex and the other 2 shows that you've done in terms of when you stopped and when the other one actually got on your channel?
It might have been 6 months, I think, just to like write the whole script for Spell Fury and get the costumes, and we went from standard definition to high definition, so we had to upgrade all our computers, buy new gear. But yeah, if you can finish off your series and give the fans an ending, I'm sure that they'd appreciate it. And follow you to your next project.
Yes. I was very fortunate. I was able to get some of our viewers from Camp Bloody Beach to move over to Venus, but as far as I was concerned, when Venus started, I was really starting over.
Yeah.
That one didn't go as well as I had hoped, and it was really very low end compared to what Venus became. And but we did get some carryover. But we ended the show, so people trusted us to make another one. In your case, your turnaround was quicker than Camp Bloody Beach to Venus spot.
Yeah, and I think some of the fans did come over because we were getting pretty good views. We were getting about 30,000 views per episode of Sex, and because it's sort of the tongue-in-cheek sort of cheesiness of Sex is sort of still in Spell Fury. I think some of the fans did sort of come over just because they like my writing style, I think. But we may have lost some. I don't know.
Well, you got as far as you got, and you were able to get that carryover, which was good. I mean, but the fact that the turnover wasn't overly long, I think also helped, even if you didn't end it. Like I think there's an elephant in the room, right? I have to acknowledge there's an elephant in the room. At the how do I put it? To avoid, I don't want to be too controversial, but everyone and their dog was talking about Solo's announced cancellation,
right?
Not too long ago.
Yep.
And I really think that if you're going to build a brand, I don't think you can do stuff like that to the degree in which they did, because I have a saying, and that is, you gotta have viewers trust you to make another show. And I would, in John's case, to throw up his hands in the manner in which he did, really, it makes you say, are you going to trust him to make another show and see it through?
Oh, I gotcha.
Because, especially because of the way he did it. Not just that he did it, but the fact that he did it in such a way that it was like, oh, it's all, woe is me, I can't do it anymore.
And again, too, I can empathize with him because it gets really tough at times. There was
it does.
Like, I know at the end of Spell Fury, at episode 12, I was a mess because I had to deliver an episode almost every 45 days, and it took me months to recuperate, and so I can feel for him. But again, I got back up, and now I'm making more episodes. I didn't let it was tough, but I fought through, right?
Right, and it's what it comes down to, though, is you were able to finish, even if Spellfury didn't come back, you finished a season.
True. Yeah, I always respect people who can finish one season. You have my respect because it's tough to finish one season, and to get into 2 and 3 like you, Chris. Like, yeah, you've got my respect, and anyone else who does it has my respect because I know how hard it is. Yeah,
it is hard. It's a lot of it is mental, keeping going, because you do a lot of there. I remember there was a couple message boards I was on, but I would say around the time Venuspaw first started, where there was discussion about the fact that a lot of pilot episodes draw extraordinarily well, and then don't draw at all afterwards.
Right, like of a web series.
Yes,
the first.
In fact, it was a trend.
Yeah, even with Spellfury, it was the same thing. But I think our first episode got featured. We got 250,000 views, and then the next one got about 175,000. Then it dropped to like 40. So if you look at a lot of web series, that does happen.
But in your case, how much of that was organic? Because there's a phrase that I use when it comes to YouTube called "the rich get richer." Now, the rich get richer means that you have an episode that has considerably more views than your others, and when a newbie comes to your channel or searches for you and finds 100 of your videos, they're going to go to the most viewed one first, generally, to see what all the fuss is about.
Gotcha.
Especially if they've never heard of you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're brand new to them, the average viewer, like I do it myself.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, Fred Loses His Meds still gets multi-million views, but a lot of his other stuff doesn't, because that one was such a big one that people just want to see what it was all about. Like, when Chris Crocker puts out videos, people will find a listing of Chris Crocker, they go straight to Leave Britney Alone, because he's most famous for it. So they want to see what the fuss was about. And it's true. It was true with Venuspaw. Like, our original trailer continues to get 200-300 views a day. Other videos that we've done, not so much. But we have, like, I would say about a dozen that get anywhere between 50 and 300 views per day without any new ones coming out. But a lot of that is because those were so much more popular than the others that people go to them first.
Right, right.
Did that happen in your case, or?
With what? Just the first episodes getting a lot of views, or?
Yeah, the early Spell Furies compared to the later ones.
The early ones, the first 2 got a lot. Even the trailer got about, I think, 50,000. Then episode 1 got about 250,000, and episode 2 got about 178,000.
Okay.
Yeah, so at first there was a big thing, and that's probably what's going on, is people are finding Spell Fury and going, oh, okay, let's go back to episode 1 and 2, or they'll look at my most viewed and see episode 1 and 2 and watch those. That totally makes sense. Yeah, I didn't really think about that.
Yeah, it's something that you can't stop physically,
right?
Unless you hit a home run with a new one.
Gotcha.
But in Venuspaw's case, we were one of the few shows that didn't get low, where the viewership didn't get lower over time.
Right.
I always judge by how it drew in the week that it was on the featured video and it was brand new, like featured on our channel.
Yep.
And the next one replaces it there, right?
Yep.
and you do that every week for as long as your season is. In my case, because it was always weekly, and we didn't drop. It got more. Each episode was a little more popular than the last, but the others would grow organically, so it still didn't look like it was doing as well as it might have. Even though it took us 10 days to get 1,000 views for our original trailer, now it gets 1,000 every 3 days. But now we get 1,000 for our when it first drops. It grows organically, but in my case, we found ways to buck the trend, but a lot of it is just pushing it. Just push your videos every week. There's a new one. Now, I know how exhausting that can be. Trust me, I've been there. Yeah, I've crashed a few times.
Yeah.
But if you keep pushing it, you're going to get pretty close to the same viewership that you got the week before and the week after.
Yeah, you got to hit it hard at marketing. You really got to fight hard for the views.
Oh yeah, because you're not going to. YouTube, I bitched about YouTube a lot when I was getting started. How come they never feature me? How come they never feature our videos? But really, you can't worry about it. You can't worry about but what about the celebrities they're going out and getting? And that was another issue that was discussed a few months ago. Was when YouTube started offering $5 million to celebrities to make their own show. So what?
Yeah, it irked me a bit, but what are you gonna do?
It did, but I also said, you know what? Snooki is barely running with us in terms of her views on her channel.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's got like 7 million views.
Right.
So, or some, at least the last time I checked, anyway. I'm not really a fan,
right.
But it doesn't matter who you are. If you don't work for it, you're not going to, unless you're Charlie Sheen and you go crazy for a little while, you're just not going to get that.
Yeah.
So, as long as you're fighting for it and slugging it out, you're going to get yours.
Yeah, people will find it. If it's good, people are going to find it. Now,
it's more, though. It has to be, I have to get this in before we move on.
Sure.
The term good is one I've debated people in LA and any other city that will speak with me on this issue, and that is, what is good? Really, for me, if it's entertaining and I find it funny or I find it interesting or it strikes a chord with me somehow, then it's good.
It's good.
But it doesn't. If it was I don't believe the Hollywood idea of good works on the web, or else the angry video game nerd would have gone nowhere.
Exactly.
I mean, his production values aren't Hollywood, but his show's pretty damn funny, and he resonates with people who's into old school video games, and especially if they suck. He strikes a chord, and that's why he is good.
Well, good is subjective. Everyone has a definition of good. Like if you looked at South Park's animation, it wasn't good, but the show's good. It's like it's the content.
It's entertaining.
It's entertainment. It's entertainment, and that's subjective. So for every person, good is something else. But the trick is to find enough people who think that your stuff is good, and then you've got yourself a fan base.
That's right. And really, what it comes down to is resonating with people. And if they don't respond, then it wasn't good.
No, it wasn't good. It may look pretty, but no one's watching it. Because for one reason or another, there's not enough people out there that think it's good for whatever reason.
That's right. It really doesn't matter one way or the other. I think I mentioned this in the past. If you want to play Hollywood's idea of good is the only way to go. Well, why don't I just get rent the most expensive camera money can buy?
Yep.
I'll get a crane, get some sweet lights, and a track, and a few other things, and maybe a red.
Yeah, red.
How about that?
You gotta have a red.
Just shoot the wall.
Yep.
I'm just going to shoot my wall and just sit there and move the cameras back and forth.
Yep.
And then if the Hollywood idea of good is the only way to go, then that should be the next big thing.
Right. That's a good point. In a lot of YouTubers, it's the charm of YouTube is it's not really slick. It's there's more of it's the everyday man. There's more, I could do it too, or it's
it's that there. But the other cool thing about it is watching people get better.
Yeah.
Watch people grow. It's so like we practically watched Phil DeFranco grow up on YouTube, and Lisa Nova and all these other big names. But Lonely Girl 15 started as a girl looking into a webcam in a bedroom, and it grew to be a monster. And it was just neat seeing that happen. So it's a combination of both, because you can start from nothing and grow and be somebody, and that's an incredibly powerful thing.
Yeah, it is. You're part of a. I always say, you know, like there's Spell Fury's the story, it's the show, but then there's also a story of how the show is actually being made and how the heck we're doing it. And I think the fans watch the show, but they also want to know the story behind the show. So there's two different stories going on.
You got people in on the creative process, and that's something you've done better than, I would say, about 95 to 99% of the shows out there, us, Venus included. I mean, you do an incredible job with that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, I came to a decision at one point. I'm like, you know what? I can only deliver an episode every 45 days. And then the audience had nothing to watch between that time. And I go, you know what? I have to release more videos. So I called it Show My Underwear, where basically I'm just going to show the process, and if it spoils it, maybe they shouldn't be watching, but that's their own choice. If they want to watch the behind the scenes and spoil some stuff, well, they made that decision. But I'm going to show my underwear, which then allows me to release more videos and keep the excitement going.
Mm-hmm. That's something that you can, in all those cases I noticed with my own stuff, whenever I do that, they don't get the views that an episode will get, but that's okay. It's there if people need it.
Yeah. Like the last one I released got like 500 views, but that's 500 of probably the more hardcore fans who really want to see behind the scenes stuff, and that fan base, that hardcore fan base, gets excited by those videos, and it keeps the passion there. So when your episode drops, they're just hungry for it because they got a little taste of it.
Yeah. And it doesn't work for everybody, but in your case, it works very well, because now, especially now that your audience knows to expect it.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
If you go 45 days between dropping any videos, people will ask questions. What's going on?
Yeah, I didn't have a choice. It's I got a lot of that. When's the next episode coming? When's the next episode coming? So I'm like, you know what? I'll show you what I'm up to. That's taken me so long. I have to. Yeah, and video's worth 10,000 words. So they go, okay, yeah, he's busy, he's working hard.
Yeah.
So we got we have about 7 more minutes before the hour mark there, where we'll probably wrap up. But do we want to talk quickly about maybe the Streamies, another Streamies coming up?
The 2000 whenever Streamies. We don't know when they're going to happen.
Yeah, they haven't released a date yet.
Well, I think you know what? I don't know what's going to happen with it. It's very interesting that they got Dick Clark involved.
Yes, that. I like that. They had
That's interesting.
They had to make a move like that because the last one was such a train wreck. Just to get some type of establishment, something. I don't know. I thought it was a good move. No, you don't?
I'm not going to say it's a bad move. Although just trying to get them on television, I think, would be a potentially very dangerous move, because it's traditional media. The Oscars didn't quit TV to go on the web, so I don't know if it's a smart idea to go the other way.
Is it supposed to be?
They want to get on TV, according to the announcements. They're hoping to get a TV deal. Now, whether they're going to stream it on the web, probably they will eventually. But from the sounds of things, it's traditional media all the way, which is why I have my reservations.
Well,
but the biggest reservation I have...
Who would air that?
What?
Who would air that, though?
After the 2010, I don't even want to gather a guess.
Right. But I did like that the Streamies. I thought it was an exciting time on the last streamies before it actually aired. I found it was very.
It felt like The Last Supper for me going in, to be honest, because there was such a strange feeling that nobody was really doing anything. At least in LA, it looked like the entire industry was about to die going into the show. And it just, I don't know what it was. There just seemed to be this weird, eerie calm going in. Like not enough happening, not enough announcements,
Right.
not very many new shows that were, high profile. And it just, something seemed amiss in that regard. I don't think anyone saw the nuclear meltdown that happening. I didn't even see that coming.
Right.
I don't know anyone that. I mean, that was, but the problem with that is it looked like a malicious middle finger to everyone that is in this space, and it really irked me in that regard. Which is why I look at this. I'm like, man, I guess it proves you can burn every bridge you want, and you can still get whatever you want out of it at the end of the day if you know the right people.
Right. Yeah. I'm not too. We've talked about this before, but with award shows where, all you have to do is make a successful business out of your web series, and you don't need awards. Mm-hmm. If I have enough money to make more Spell Fury episodes, I win. I don't need an award. Award helps obviously for press, and you can put it on your IMDb page, or it's great. But you don't need it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been very hot and cold on the subject myself, and that is like there were times where I thought it was a complete joke. I thought it was useless. It was a waste of time, waste of money, etc. Then I thought, you know what? Maybe it does help people get funding. Maybe that is a good thing. But then when we saw the studios fall flat on their face, which they did, really, Sony's not making new original stuff anymore.
Nope.
The networks don't seem to know what they're doing. So awards clearly didn't help there either. So it's, having a trophy in your hand, that and $250 will get you on a subway in New York. I mean, for me, it's cool if people nominate Venus or any other show that I know for an award. I'll with you, I offer kudos when you get a nomination. Same with Jason with Dad and a few other shows. But really, at the end of the day, do we need them? Not really. I don't look that pretty in front of a camera anyway, so walking a red carpet isn't something that I'm really all that eager to do. I've never been a fan of it. I understand a lot of people do, and it's there if you need it, but
the red carpet seemed too much. We're sort of a small web series community with little money, and it's just a lot of passion is making these projects. And we're from Canada where we sort of frown upon sort of the glitz, and it's more about substance than that type of stuff, because we would rather spend the time and the money making our show than buying a red carpet and putting up lights and pretending we're movie stars.
I think being isolated has a lot to do with that as well, because our community in Canada is so spread out.
Yeah.
Like, you have a handful of creators in Toronto, you're in Ottawa, there's a few in Quebec, there's me and maybe 2 or 3 other active shows in Manitoba, if that, like one of them's a vlogger. Then you go to Saskatchewan, they're pretty far between. There's a couple in Alberta, and there's a larger cluster in Vancouver. But it's not like LA or New York where they have a large center and cluster of people within. But because there's so many of them together, there's a lot of chest pounding, and there's a lot of, look at how awesome we are. And I'm tired of the word awesome. I want to say that right now. No one wants to use the word awesome to describe our stuff. I can't. It's reached a point where I consider it a dirty word because it's so overused. I've used it a few times, which is bad.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But
awesome
but
is overused.
Yeah. But the thing is, because these centers have X amount of people in them, they'll join together for something like this because over there it's expected.
And a lot of it too, I think, is they want to be noticed by the television industry in LA.
Yeah, a lot of them have been very open in blogs and in other places. That they want this to be the minor leagues of traditional media, and to get the studios to see them. And unfortunately, you have to have these mixers, dinner parties, and red carpet events to get industry people from outside of their own space to notice them. Now, I don't know if that works. I don't know why one would, I don't know what spending that kind of money does for anyone at the end of the day, but it's a mentality that exists.
But shouldn't that money be spent on screen? You know, they always talk about when a movie, you know, you want the money on screen. You don't want it to be on the catering, and it's got to be up there where the audience can see it. And if they can't see it in the content...
I've been guilty of overspending on catering. So.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you're right. But that goes to what you're doing it for. Are you doing it just to get with the studios or just to get hired somewhere? Or are you doing it because you want to build a brand? If you're building a brand, you're absolutely right. We need to be spending it on the projects themselves or getting the word out to those projects. If you need some money to buy a television commercial, because that would actually help.
Yep.
Or buy a YouTube, or buy the front page of YouTube, whatever. If you can enhance your viewership, and that money goes to that in advertising,
sure,
go for it. You know, that's as good. That's just as good as putting that money on your screen.
Yeah, like because I like to think of it as a web series is a business. It's show business, and I think a lot of shows and a lot of people forget that. So if we look at something like Solo, you know, if they didn't find their audience, they don't have a business, because who's going to be no one's watching the show, so they can't get advertisers. So there's no business there.
The only thing that becomes, and I noticed that when I was reading some of John Nail's comments on the new TV article that trumpeted the end of Solo, was he was looking to get picked up by network. Now, you don't need views to get picked up by the Sci-Fi Channel or some other channel. Like Mercury Man, I believe it's called, got a huge deal with Sci-Fi. Nobody watched it. It was like 4,000 views in total for all the stuff that was there in existence, but they got on television. It must have impressed somebody up among the executives or something. That can be done.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with demo reels.
Okay, so if the way I see it, I look at Mercury Men as a business, and their strategy was to be picked up by TV. So all their focus was on that, and they succeeded in achieving their business goals.
Yes, there's nothing wrong with that, because they were essentially making a demo. And there's nothing wrong with that. But
no,
that does not industry make.
Right. So but again, too, it's like you decide to do things with your business, and sometimes it fails, and sometimes it succeeds.
Right.
So it's when you have a web series, I think of Spellfear now as a business, and it's like I can't make any mistakes because I have little money, so I have to really think my strategy through.
Yeah, and the value of the dollar is instilled in you already.
Yeah. So, you know, for instance, DragonCon, we were invited to speak on a panel.
Sweet.
Which is awesome, and I'd love to do it. It would be great for my ego and to go down there, and I'd probably have a blast at the convention because, hey, it's fantasy. And I'd love to travel, but, you know, it could cost me $3,000 to do it. Well, you know, to fly down, to stay there for a few days, you know, I'd probably bring down, you know, a friend, or it could be expensive for me.
You should bring, if you're going to do that, like I'm a big fan of going to conventions if you can afford it.
Yeah.
Bring DVDs.
Yeah.
Sell stuff. You know, that's how you make money at a convention, is if you bring DVDs of your project and you screen some of it and people like it, they'll buy it. I plan on doing that at C4 for a sci-fi movie I shot during the summer. But I hear what you're saying.
Like, I'd like to do that. I really would. I think it would be awesome. But for me, it's a bad business move, because if I go and spend $3,000 or $2,000 or whatever it is, that's $2,000 I could have put into the show. I could have bought better costumes. I could have maybe hired on an extra guy to do some visual effects to speed up the episodes. For me, that's a bad business move. It could pay off, but it seems risky to me. I don't know if I could sell enough DVDs right now. I don't have the facts, right?
It depends on where you're going. Like in my case, C4 is here in Winnipeg.
Right.
But it's a month-or event that I'd be more than willing to pay $300-400 to invest in.
Sure. Like I went to G Anime, which was about an hour from here, or an hour and 45 minutes from here. It cost me probably $100, $200 for the day, and we had people dressed up. It was a cosplay anime festival, and we had people dressed up from Spell Fury, and it got us some exposure. Yeah, that's doable, but and I'd love to get to a point where I'm making enough money through Spell Fury that I can go to all the big conventions. But for me right now, it would be a mistake.
Right.
I think.
Okay. Well, that's why you keep it local until you can.
But
local conventions don't cost nearly as much as, like, I'm never going to San Diego Comic-Con to set up a table because I'm probably never going to have that kind of money.
Well, you never know.
And yeah, if you get a sponsor, great. But it's monster money up front and nowadays, and standing out is even tougher. And compare that to smaller conventions, which have a more concentrated audience and get more space, all that stuff. It might make more sense. Yeah. So yeah, if you're able to integrate conventions into what you do, I say go for it. If you can make it worth your while.
Well, I think the future of Spell Fury, I'd love to be able to do that, to hit all the conventions. I just know right now we're on such a tight budget that I just can't. But sometimes web series creators will take risks like that.
Yeah. I've saw that a lot, especially at Comic-Con in the last 2 years. Of shows have been setting up tables with various degrees of, like, Guild does well, but Safety Geeks not so much, that kind of thing. It really comes down to how big your audience is.
Yeah.
I think with San Diego Comic-Con, you definitely need to have a larger national following in order to have a table and make it really matter and really make it profitable.
Yeah.
Because that way you can sell T-shirts and DVDs and whatnot. But back to what we were talking about with business models.
Yep.
And the thing in John Nail's case with Solo, to get all the way back to that, is basically he was hoping to get picked up by television first and foremost. That or get monster views and build his own brand around millions of views. Neither happened. So in that case, you could say that the business model was a failure because I don't know what it was. Maybe he said his goal's too lofty. Maybe he wasn't thinking about his niche. I don't know. But that's an example of not doing a lot of research and development when creating a show.
Yeah. Like, and again, Solo is just one example, but there's thousands.
Yeah, I hate to hammer on him. John's a good guy, but yeah, you're right. There's lots of others.
There's like 1,000 shows that weren't announced when they failed.
It's just the most famous example because he did publicly announce the end.
Right. Right. Well, and again, too, it doesn't get any harder than this. You've got no money. You've got even the crews. Like my crews are tiny little crews. I have to do everything on set. And it's really hard. I do all the editing and visual effects. So that's what I see. It can only get better from here.
Yeah, in my case, I was lost without a map if I was alone in the first 2 seasons. Now I'm able to actually handle various things by myself. But you got to live with it for as long as you have to. And I'm not the kind of person that's comfortable with a big crew around. Things don't get done when you have too many people on set. So I probably will never have more than a 3 or 4 person crew at any given time as long as I'm making web shows, is because I'm not going to be comfortable with that. I know I can improve as a DP and whatnot to improve the production value, but that's on my end. As long as I can do it on my end, everybody else that's involved will be in sync and everything will be fine.
Yeah.
So,
well, the beauty of being able to do everything yourself just from necessity, because you have to keep things going, is when you do bring in people, you know how to do those jobs, so you can either train them to get better, and worst case scenario, you just do everything. I know it's hard.
And so, what if someone's doing something wrong?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's something that when it comes to making a web series, I don't, people will ask what about television or whatnot, I'm not a fan of going the expensive route when it comes to having a big crew, big cast, monster production. Like, I know that there's ways around building quality production values for the platform that I'm on. Like, remember the For You consideration thing with the streamies?
What happened with that?
Those were those theater screenings they had.
Oh, yeah, I remember that, yeah.
I mean, some shows one was a movie disguised as a show, really, but there was a lot of the shows were put on screen and they were judged on how they looked in a movie theater.
Oh.
Now, that I don't see how you can adequately judge something that is meant to be on an iPod or on the screens are getting smaller when it comes to the web. Because we're connected at all times. You know, you could be watching it on a little cell phone screen on a train somewhere or on an airplane. You know, the screens are smaller. People want their stuff right now. It's a completely different viewing experience from what's on television or in your Silver City or whatever monster movie theater chain you have. And to try to judge Shane Dawson on one of those monsters just ain't right. You know, you have to ask yourself, what's good production value and how can it work on the amount of space I'm going to have on this screen?
Yeah, I like you.
My hand right on my picture of me on this phone here or on this Skype, and there's a limited amount of space to put things.
Yeah, I agree. I think, well, you and I have always been focused on the web. We love the web, where a lot of other web series creators, that's not their focus. It's different places. And that's why you and I have been successful, because that's what we've wanted, is to have a big audience online.
And that's important. You have to make a decision as to what platform you want your stuff to be on. Now, if you want to make a movie, you can still put your movie on the web.
Yep.
There's no question. Netflix exists for a reason. But you have to take into consideration where that movie will ultimately be screened. Yep. If you have Netflix, most people are going to plug that into their television. They're not going to be watching it on their Mac. And
even with our strategies, even with, let's say, getting Spell Fury on TV, like I've toyed with that as well, and it can be very seductive. Where, for instance, this summer or shortly, Spell Fury might be on national TV in Canada.
Right.
But the more I pursue that and the more time I spend on going after that, which it is viable, but it's just, for TV for me, it moves so slow. And I just like to get an episode done. And I find pursuing this TV thing is really slowing me down. And if it pays off, it's not a waste of time, but it could be a waste of time. I could have spent a lot of... And then there's another time where I was trying to get Spell Fury on TV, and I was talking to a production company that had gotten a lot of shows on TV. Not web series, just shows. And they were saying that I wouldn't be able to direct it or write it. I would just be a consultant. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, I think I would have been paid extremely well to be a consultant.
Well, if you're selling remake rights, that's a good idea. But if they're asking for you to kill your canon, that's a dumb idea. It's not a smart idea to do that, because you lose brand. You lose it. Yeah, it's not your anymore.
Exactly. So I just had to shut that down, even though it was seductive. I'm like, you know what? Forget about it. Focus on my business strategy, which is to get as many viewers online watching my show. And even with this global thing, which is extremely attractive, but very slow moving, I'm almost like, forget about it. Stick to your original business strategy, which is get as many people watching Spell Fury as possible.
When I was out in LA, one of the things people would tell me is, why are you still making new episodes? You know, why you stop what you're doing? Wait till these people tell you what they want you to make.
Right.
I said, well, it's all well and good, but if I'm trying to build a brand, that's suicide.
That's bad advice.
I watched that happen to Prom Queen. I watched it happen to other shows, and it's not, everyone that's made that decision has regretted it at the end of the day because of that. If you're looking just to get on television, then that's fine, and you can do that. You can stop what you're doing and show and jump through the hoops and all that stuff. But if you're trying to build something that's ongoing and you're looking for people that believe in what you're doing, that's not the way to go, because you will lose the fan base that you've spent so much time building in the process. And you and I both know how hard it is to get a television show made in this country.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Canada. I mean, compare that to the United States, where there's hundreds of channels. There's so many channels out there. You know, I'm surprised 90% of the web space in LA doesn't have a TV show. I mean, it's so big. But here, you can almost count the owners of the networks on one hand. So knowing that it's that hard, you know, what's going to come out of it when it's done?
Right.
Really, unless you're experienced and you know the drill, and you don't have, and your heart's not in it the way ours is, and we're trying to build our own thing. You know, is it worth it? Probably not. I mean, because the rewards are limited at best, and the risk is so high. So if you're building stuff on the web for the web, looking to television, unless you really hit a home run, I can't see it being viable.
And let's say you get your TV show, you get your web series turned into a TV show. What if they cancel it after 4 episodes?
That happened to Quarter Life.
Yeah, like what then? And there's all this time, like maybe perhaps a year in development and casting and doing this, and all of a sudden it's canceled. Your original audience has been sitting there for a year with no episodes. They've forgotten about the show. They've moved on to something else. And where are you then?
Yeah. So really, I think when you create a web series, I mean, there is a market for doing just that. You know, there's a lot of people that are able to do that. But generally, if you're trying to, like in our case, we're building our own brands.
Yeah. And
trying to go to television and putting our brands on hold, unless we've got something else that we can post to compensate. If you can do that, then you can do both. But you aren't going to be sleeping much at night.
Right.
Not enough hours in the day.
That's right.
But Shane Dawson's doing that. He's Superman as far as I'm concerned because of that. Right. But if you're in a position where you have to put your brand on hold, I don't see how that's viable. I really don't.
Yeah, I agree. Well, do you want to wrap things up? We'll come back next week and chat about whatever we want.
Yeah, next Monday or Tuesday, I guess, whenever we're able to get together again.
Yeah.
Watch Venus Spa. Watch Spell Fury.
No, where can they find Venus Spa if they want to watch it?
YouTube.com/Watch Venus Spa.
All right, so if you want to find Spell Fury, just go to YouTube and type in Spell Fury, one word. Spell Fury, one word. You'll find a whole whack load of episodes. I hope you like it. And thanks for being on the show, Chris, and I will talk to you next week.
Sounds good. I will talk to you later. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.